Hello, friends, and welcome to this week's Dharma Talk Tuesday. I'm your host, Julie Surratt, and we are here, as always, in the Dharma Talk Tuesday chair. I'm very happy to be with you today, and I'm very happy to be back in San Diego. So some of you may know, I was just home, back in the Midwest, visiting my family. And some of you also may know that that was the first time I was home in 2.5 years. So I wanted to do a Dharma Talk Tuesday today about that experience and about the level of transformation that it took for that to be a great experience. Okay, so just know that was my intention, and I also want you to know that as I was praying and meditating about this last night and this morning, I was very back and forth on if I wanted to share, how much I wanted to share, what I wanted to share. And at the end of the day, I realized that it would be really selfish of me not to just authentically, vulnerably share as much as I possibly could about the breakthrough and the transformation that I'm going to just, take credit that I created, that God created, that God used me to create within my family, because I know that there are some people who are watching right now. I know that some of you are watching right now, and there's a transformation to be had inside your family. And so I'm going to share a story with you today about transformation in the area of family. So Dharma Talk Tuesday is a weekly live stream that I do around the topic of Dharma, which usually is about prosperity and abundance, but Dharma isn't just about your career, and it's not just about your money manifesting. It's also about your relationships. It's also about your health. It's also about your family. Okay. So all that being said, I'm going to dive right in here. And as you're hopping on, I would love for you to just say hi, share where you're tuning in from, and share with us a little bit about your Dharma, your calling, your purpose as we're going along, okay? All right, so I've got my notes here as usual to keep me on track, because if I don't follow my notes, I will end off on a tangent in 500 miles away, totally off topic. Okay, so you'll see me looking down and referencing my notes. Okay. So I'm going to share with you, I'm going to go back in time to June 2013. And I want to first share with you one of the most painful memories and experiences that has happened to me in my life. I've been through a lot in my life, and I'm not going to go into all of it here, but I'm going to share with you one of the most painful memories and experiences. It was a memory and an experience that left me feeling like I was alone in the world, like nobody understood me, like maybe I was crazy, but ultimately, more than anything else, I felt so hurt and depressed and heartbroken and betrayed. So let's just rewind to what happened. That afternoon, I had been picked up at the airport by my boyfriend at the time, who picked me up I flew in from having defended my graduate thesis in marine mammal ecotoxicology. So I successfully defended it, which was awesome. But he picked me up, and have you ever had this sense, right away, like something is off? They're not saying anything that would indicate that things were off, but have you ever had a sense, despite that something was just really off? So the drive from the airport to my apartment at the time was about 25 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer. And the entire way there, no matter what we were talking about, I just had this feeling of dread. And it was like this knot of dread that was started in my stomach, and it worked its way up. It crept up into my throat. And by the time we parked in my parking garage, I see it so vividly now. It was like we were driving up the ramps to get into my parking garage. We parked, and I felt like it took a lot from me, but I got up the nerve to turn to him, and I said, "Is everything okay?" And he gave a sigh just like that, turned off the engine, looked at me, and he said, "Well, Julie, to be honest, I was waiting until you finished with your thesis, until, I knew you had a lot on your plate and you were stressing about a lot, but I've been really thinking, and I think it's time we part ways. And I felt the emotions come up, and I was it shocked me. I mean, I moved to the Midwest from Asia for this guy, and I was happy in Asia. And I moved to the Midwest, and I was like, "Are you breaking up with me right now?" And he was like, "Yeah, I am. I think it's for the better. Neither of us are happy. I think it's for the better." And I remember I was just a mess. And I remember reaching down. I could barely move. I could barely do anything. But I reached down, and I was wearing a yellow tank top. And I, as I'm crying, I'm wiping my tears with my yellow tank top. And it got totally stained from that, which is why I remember it was a yellow tank top. And he brought my luggage inside, put it down, and left. And I, at that point, got up and I drove to my dad and my stepmom's house, seeking comfort. And I went and I sat down and I told them the situation. I told them what happened and how devastated I was. And my stepmom sat with me and comforted me and, said all the things that, what can you say? That's such a hard situation. But about 10 minutes into it, my dad hadn't said anything, but about 10 minutes into it, he goes, "So what are you going to do about your job?" And of course, I'm feeling what does that have to do with anything right now? That timing of that question was really inappropriate, quite honestly. But I was taken aback, but I was okay, well, I better answer him. And the reason he was asking is because I was getting laid off from working at the lab. I was working at the university doing research, and my grant didn't get renewed. So I got, I was given my 2 weeks notice. And so I answered him and I said, "Well, I've been thinking, and I've decided I'm not going to go back and get another job. I am going to start a business as a life coach." And both my parents looked at me in absolute horror and disgust and fear and confusion. And my stepmom in that moment blurted out, "Who are you to be a coach? Who are you? Who are you to lead people and tell them how to run their life?" And that's the kind of thing that people think, but they don't actually say. I was thinking that on the inside, to be honest, but I didn't ever expect anyone to say that to me, especially somebody who I trusted and somebody who was supposed to be a cheerleader and an advocate and give me messages "Hey, I believe in you," not "Who are you to X, Y, and Z?" You know what I mean? And I just couldn't take it anymore in that moment. And I got up and I was sobbing and I was crying and I was hyperventilating, and I left. And it happened to be so cliche, but it was a dark and stormy night, and I drove home. Thank God the drive was very short. And I could barely see anyway because I was crying so hard and it was raining outside, but I did get home safely. And I made a promise to myself and I said, I'm going to rock out this business. I'm going to prove them wrong. I know this is my calling. I'm clear about that. God's shown me the way, and I didn't have that relationship with God at that time, but it was still very clear to me. And I was I'm doing this. I am absolutely doing this. And sure enough, after that, I actually looked for a waitressing job, which I didn't end up needing to get because my very first month in business, I brought in $20,000 in revenue. And my first 6 months in business, I brought in $90,000 in revenue. And my business was growing and my reach was growing. And I'm proud to say that in those first few years, I had a 100% renewal rate. Which is kind of unheard of. That's not normal. But my clients were happy and they were creating success and I was creating success. But what happened was that night that the altercation happened, it created a rift, a really damaging rift in my relationship with my dad and my stepmom. And I was actually talking to mom on the phone earlier today, and she said she saw my Facebook post that has been getting a lot of traffic so far lately. Just a lot of positive feedback and inspiration and things like that. And she said, wow, I had no idea things were so challenging with them. And she said something about how I didn't say anything about her. And I was like, oh, I could say something about you if you really wanted me to. And I say that laughing now because, we've healed our relationship, but I've had challenge with her too. So much so that at the end of the day, I really had this feeling, and I know that there are some of you that can relate to me when I say this, when I was doing my business, that I just really felt like I could depend on myself. Like nobody could take care of me the way that I could take care of me. And what that did was it created a belief inside of me that I couldn't rely on anyone, that I wouldn't, I couldn't trust anyone. I couldn't receive support in a way that I could just really lean back and feel like I'd be okay and taken care of. As you can imagine, that's a very damaging belief when it comes to relationships, but that's the belief I developed for a little while. So let me check my notes to make sure I'm not too off track. Okay, so that was my life for, 6 years. I was in total breakdown, honestly, with my family for the majority of that time. There were times when it kind of got a little bit better, but for most of that time, I didn't talk to my dad or my mom or my sister. And I sort of developed my own family. And there are people who talk about developing the friends who feel like family, and that's exactly what I had. I had the friends who felt like family. And thank God for that. Thank God for that. But there's still something about your blood relatives that it just has a hook in you. You know what I mean? And I realized and very recently, so I'm sharing this with you honestly and vulnerably, about 6 months ago, I had this moment of you know what? I am a stand for all things are possible. I'm a stand for the both and. I'm a stand for love, for commitment, for connection and intimacy and vulnerability and transparency in the world. So it got to a point about 6 months ago where it actually felt very out of integrity that I was in such breakdown with my family. And at that point, again, I was kind of talking to them, but it wasn't like it was at the level that I really wanted it to be. You know what I mean? It was almost I would say it was a 5 out of 10. You know what I mean? And I knew that as a Dharma queen, I get to have a 10 out of 10 everywhere in my life. As a Dharma queen, you get to have a 10 out of 10 everywhere in your life. And if you're honest with yourself and you're really looking at all the different components of your life, if there's anywhere that's less than a 10 out of 10, get honest with yourself, and I invite you to really look at that. And so what I did was I got honest with myself, and I looked at it and I was like, it's not okay with me to claim, to say that I'm a stand for transformation in the world and to not be fully in integrity with that. So I made a decision. To heal and transform my relationship with my family. So as you're hearing this and watching this, it may occur to you as I say that, a question like, how can you possibly make a decision and create a commitment to heal and transform your relationship with your family when you honestly can't really control another person? You can't control another person. You can't direct their thoughts and actions to create a different situation. And yes, that is true. But there is one person I can control, and that's myself. So I knew that if I could do some deep work inside myself, that I could transform. And I knew, based on other areas of my life, that if I could transform parts of myself, I could manifest a different situation in my external reality. I had done it with money. I had done it with business. I had done it with my body. I had done it with a romantic relationship with Matt, obviously. And so I started to realize, I think it's possible, and I use these words intentionally because it was more of an exploration, a curiosity. I think it might be possible for me to do this with family too. And as I started to explore and get curious about that vision and that possibility, I realized, wow, I am actually open to the possibility of transformation and happiness in my family. And that right there was huge, because once you become open to the possibility of the thing that you want happening, big shifts can start to happen. Prior to that moment, that thing can't happen. If there's nowhere in you that believes that it's possible, it will never happen. And this is one of the reasons why I teach emotional cultivation, which is a manifesting technique. And it's so important because if you don't actually believe, like if you're not grounded in a belief that something can happen, I see this all the time. People have great strategy, they have proven strategy, and then they go try and do it. And like they still don't get the results that they want. Why? Because they haven't shifted that internal belief system. So like you cannot outperform your belief system. So what I knew I needed to do was change my belief system. And once I saw that I was open to the possibility that I started to believe that transformation could be possible. I knew that there'd be a way. I didn't know the how. And think about this for you, like in your business or in your relationships or in your whatever. You might not know the how. In fact, you probably won't know the how. But if you have a belief and if you decide to pursue that belief and really be open to that belief, then amazing things can happen. So I'm going to give you today the 3 things that I did. Once I realized I was open to the belief, once I decided to pursue that vision, to be open to that vision, there are 3 things I did every single day for the subsequent 6 months. And a month ago, so 5 months into that commitment, a miracle happened. A miracle absolutely happened. So, I'm going to share those 3 things with you right now. And I'm very excited to share them with you. And my intention in sharing this with you is that it will create really to be source for, like it'll create a ripple for you in your business or in your family or in your romantic vision that will help you create the thing that you desire, even if it feels impossible, even if you have doubts, even if you have a story, which I know some people have this story when it comes to influencers, like, well, of course it's possible for Julie, she X, Y, and Z, but it's not possible for me. So even if you have a belief like that, I'm clear that if you do these 3 things, you'll create what you want. I'm just absolutely clear about that. Like, this is the formula. So get excited. Hearts and likes if you are eager to hear what I'm about to say while I check my notes and make sure that I've covered everything I wanted to say. All right. And I'm just going to check the comments as well. Hello, Heather. Hello, Jolyn. Hello, Heidi. She says, welcome back. Thank you. Hi, Shawnee. Anya says, how timely. Just got off the phone with my mom. That's perfect. Karen says, hello, beautiful. Hello. Caitlin, hello. And Caitlin, happy birthday. Caitlin's a former Mayan client of ours. So I saw you're doing a fundraiser. That's beautiful. Hi, Catherine. Hello, Crystal. Alexis says, you are powerful and strong. You're a spectacular coach, and I acknowledge you for owning your power and living your purpose. Alexis, thank you. I appreciate that acknowledgement. Chrissy, I appreciate your acknowledgement in your comment on my Facebook post about this topic. Thank you. That was really well thought out and articulate and beautiful, and I appreciate you so much. Chrissy does something, you guys, called the right pillow, and she sent me one. And I sleep with it every night, and it's epic. So, Chrissy, if you want to post a link here for that, that's a little free plug for you. Giovanna, hello. Annette, she says, hearts and likes for everything you say. You're so funny, Annette. Good to see you. All right. Okay, I'm going to swipe the comment. I like to swipe the comments while I'm talking because otherwise I get so distracted by you guys. But keep commenting, keep it coming, and then I'll come back after I go through these 3 points. All right. So the 3 things that I did that created this incredible, beautiful, worthwhile, miraculous transformation. The first thing, you may already know, I decided on the vision. So basically, I made a decision. My why behind the decision was very strong. I realized that I was out of integrity, and it's very important to me to be in integrity. So I wanted to restore integrity. I also I have a sense of urgency on what I do. No one's promised tomorrow. And so I didn't know how to reconcile things with my family, but I knew I needed to because I'm very conscious of mortality, and it really pains me to believe that something could happen to me or to my dad or to any of my family members, and I wouldn't have an opportunity. I mean, I see it all the time because of the work that I do, where people don't have an opportunity to say what they wanted to say or to have the experience they wanted to have. And so I had this incredibly strong sense of urgency, which for whatever your vision is, for the thing that you're up to, is really important. So having that strong sense of urgency with your vision. And then, like I said, integrity. So I had a commitment to be in integrity. So that was a really strong why. Another component to this, when I decided on the vision, I also decided that there was no other possibility. Like, my family, like, I didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I decided that there was no other possibility. Like, I was going to manifest this. I was going to figure it out. I was going to call it in. I was going to align to it. And there simply was no other possibility. Now, I think the important thing to say about that, because sometimes people get kind of like desperate or attached in their manifesting practice, and that can create like a tightness in your energy and in your vibration, and that's kind of low vibe. So from the energy set point scale, if you're in like contraction or tightness or attachment about something, that starts to put you into fear rather than a higher vibration like faith or peace or whatever. So if you're in attachment, you go into fear, which is it's 100. It vibrates at 100, so it's a lower part of the vibrational scale. If you're wondering where I'm quoting these numbers from, look up Dr. David Hawkins and the book called Power versus Force, and he goes through all of it there. So I didn't know when, I didn't know how, I didn't have any of those like attachments, but I just knew I had this vision. And here's the key. This is what I really want you to hear. I was unwavering in the vision. I was absolutely unwavering in the vision. There is no other possibility. So I want you to think right now about your vision, the thing that you want to have happen more than anything else in the whole world. And again, this is like one of those honest moments, and you can either post it here or just have like a private moment with yourself. Are you unwavering in that vision? Do you leave room for possibilities other than that vision happening? You know, and what that manifests as is doubt, is scarcity, is fear, is conditionality. Like, okay, I'll pursue this vision if this happens. I see this all the time. I actually was just emailing one of my team members, and there's Duke. You have something to say? He's happy to be home. Do you have something to say? Oh, okay. Can you go sit down? Can you be quiet and go sit down while I finish this? Please? He just burped. Did you hear that? That's so gross. Okay, come on. Okay, go lay down. Go lay down. Now he's standing in front of me because he wants me to pet him. Okay, come say hi. Come say hi. He just wants to say hi. Okay. All right, so you got to get honest with yourself. Is there room for doubt in your vision? If you're making backup plans for your vision, if you're like, well, I'm going to achieve that unless I get this job, then I'm going to go take this job. Or like, I'm going to focus on that provided I receive this amount of money, or provided I get here, but like provided I manifest this by this certain amount of time. These are all conditions, and they will fuck up your manifesting. So you get to be let me just like take this to another context. If you look at some of the people we admire most in history, and in the, like, for example, I think about Jesus Christ, unconditional love. I think about some of our like recent leaders of movements, like JFK. We're putting a man on the moon. No excuses, no conditions, no buts, ifs, ands, or ors, and it happened. MLK. Like, we will create equality, period. No conditionality. Didn't know how. It seemed pretty unlikely, but that was the vision. So you get to become completely unwavering and unconditional in the pursuit of that vision, okay? So hopefully that lands. If you have questions about that, definitely post them here so I can answer them for you. The second thing I did was I noticed when I got triggered, and I used those triggers as an opportunity to look within myself at where in me I'm like rejecting or resenting a part of myself related to that trigger. So for example, one of the things that used to really trigger me about my dad, and I say used to because I'm cleared of it now, but for a long time, like the majority of my life, it triggered me that he was so unimaginative. And I'm a very creative person. And the reason he was unimaginative is because he's a very linear thinker. So one of the things about that way of thinking is like I'm definitely like the Renaissance type. Like I was a double major, double minor. I would have, and I graduated with like 50 extra credits from college in the span of 3.5 years. I just couldn't help it. I just love to learn. I'm a lifelong student. My dad's never understood this part of me. And I had never understood the part of him that was like, didn't give a shit about learning, you know? And it really like, it hurt me that he didn't understand that, but I also judged him for like having his way of doing things. And so what ended up happening when I started to be intentional about noticing these triggers was I realized that the reason why his linear thinking triggered me was because he's a very, let me put it this way. He's a very reliable person. So sometimes people with my personality type, and I definitely had this racket for a long time and I've worked a lot on it, can be very flaky or very like in the clouds, kind of unreliable, kind of like all words and talk and vision, but no like follow through or action or like reliability. And I used to be that way and I've done a lot of work on it, but I still had some residual triggers on it. And I realized that that aspect of my dad triggered me because that was something that I did not have in myself or that I didn't have access to, I'll put it that way. And I really that was frustrating to me about myself. So as I started to shift and I became reliable and I became more kind of like logically minded and grounded and more full of integrity, it was interesting because this is so cool that those moments when my dad would be that way, I stopped getting triggered by them and I started actually really respecting him and admiring him for that way of being and really admiring him for the fact that he's just naturally that way. Like that's just his natural default mode, if you want to put it that way. And same thing with other members of my family, you know, like my mom, it used to drive me crazy that we had to get every place like 30 minutes early. And it was such a pain in the ass to me. And so I like rebelled against that in my 20s and would get everywhere late. I was consistently late. And so same kind of thing. Like I've learned like that part of my mom that's very regimented and very disciplined. I've learned to really admire and respect that about her. Or my sister, I'll use her as an example. She is very clever, but can use it in like I'm like ragging on my family right now, but it's not meant to be ragging. It's about appreciating. At the end of the day, she's very clever, and sometimes she uses that cleverness like for malintent, let's say. That was something that triggered me about myself. And when I realized that I did that, I was like, oh, that's what I did. And so I stopped doing it and I started to actually think she was funny. And so we started to laugh about it. And now it's like, I can't wait to get on the phone with her because I think she's fucking funny. And hopefully that connection makes sense. My point in sharing all of these examples with you is that if there's somebody in your life who's triggering you and you're struggling to be in relationship with them, here's what I advise you to do. You do something called getting responsible. You take the responsible outlook instead of being like, oh, my dad doesn't understand me. He'll never understand me. He'll never get me. My mom, she is just like so strict and controlling. Or my sister, she's like so insensitive. Instead of having those kinds of stories, how about you have a different story? How about you look at those things like, wow, that's a different way of being in the world. That's a different way of doing things in the world. And I wonder if I could learn from that way of being. And so that's called being responsible. So I got responsible about these various characteristics or attributes or ways of being. And by the time I went home to visit this past weekend, I was like, wow, like I was really in admiration of every single one of my family members specifically in the areas that used to trigger me, I was in admiration of those qualities. That's a transformation, and it's a transformation that happened inside of me. It had nothing to do with them. Like, I'm the one that took on this vision, you know what I mean? Like, I'm the one that took on this this work inside myself, and they're the ones that changed. Now, like, their relationship all with each other, that's a whole other story that I won't go into right now, but my relationship with each of them is, it's like I left home. Well, I'll get into that in a second, but I'll share with you, just like, spoiler alert, was so positive. It was so positive. Okay, so let's just review what we've gone over so far. So here's the 3 things. The first thing is becoming unwavering in your vision, becoming unconditional in your vision. So obviously, first deciding what your vision is, and then becoming unwavering and unconditional in your vision. The second is to identify the triggers and to learn from them. So in other words, becoming responsible around the triggers. Responsibility is the opposite of being a victim. So rather than being a victim to all the shitty dynamics in my family, I chose to be responsible, and that will create transformation. Okay, let's talk about the third thing. Are you ready for this? Okay. The third thing is I took consistent, committed, urgent action. So what does that mean? It means that even when I didn't feel like calling my family members to say hi, I would call them consistently to say hi. Even when I didn't feel like having a clearing conversation, when I realized a clearing conversation got to be had, I would have that clearing conversation. So here's what happened a month ago. 1 month ago, actually it was more like a month and a half ago, I think. I've been praying about this, and I've been doing all of this work I just shared with you every single day. And then I got an email from my stepmom, and basically my dad and I were in breakdown about something, and my stepmom intervened. And she said, Julie, this is ridiculous. You need to talk to your dad. And I ended up getting on the phone with her. And that was the opportunity. That was the urgent, committed action. And I shared with her, I said, do you remember that night when you said to me, who are you to be a coach? And I shared it with her. I shared with her how much it hurt me. I shared with her how fucked up I thought it was of her to say that. How a parent's job is to believe in their child, not to make them feel like that comment made me feel. I'm just being honest with you. That's what I did. And I remember before I got on the phone with her, like 15 minutes before I got on the phone with her, I was freaking out. Like, oh my God, I really hope maybe she won't answer the phone. Like, maybe I can cancel. Like, those were the thoughts I was having, because like any normal person, I was nervous to have that conversation. I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know what I was going to say. I felt vulnerable. I felt scared. And the reason why it's so important to be committed to taking urgent, committed action is because if you're not, you're going to miss out on those really important moments that move the ball forward. So it was because I had that difficult but ultimately beautiful conversation with her, where she owned her stuff and I owned my stuff, that we arranged a visit for me to go home and see my family for the first time in 2.5 years. So like, you know, if you saw the pictures, my dad had a stroke. We almost lost him 6 years ago. And so his health is not good. So I know, like, I really know time is of the essence. I already almost lost my dad. When my sister was 13, I think she was 12 or 13. I think she was 12 turning 13. She was diagnosed with cancer and had a tumor the size of an orange on her liver. Like, we've been through hard stuff in my family. Like, I almost lost my sister. I almost lost my dad. Like, hard stuff, you know what I mean? And so I knew the urgency, but I also didn't know the how. And then the how arrived. And sometimes when the how arrives, people have this fear or this holdback, like, oh, now I know how to achieve the thing I want. Like, here's the answer, but I don't have the money, but I'm afraid, but I don't know how, but what if I look bad or fail or mess up? And those are the conversations that happen, and then it stops them. And so even if they've done the first 2 steps, they've got the vision and they've decided, they're unwavering in their commitment. They are being responsible for their triggers along the way. If they're not taking urgent, committed action when the opportunity arises and facing the fear and doing the scary thing, you're not going to manifest your desired result. So it's imperative that you take urgent, consistent, committed action when the opportunity presents itself. So think for a moment in your life right now. What is something that has presented itself as part of the solution for the vision that you've realized that you want? Like, what is something that's presented itself? Just stop and think for a second. What is that thing? And then use this moment interacting with me now and interacting in the thread, whether you're live or on the replay, to get, again, honest with yourself about like what action you've been taking towards that thing. Have you been presented with an opportunity, but you're holding back because whatever? Have you been presented an opportunity, but you're afraid? Like, let's just get honest about that right now and create a shift and create transformation in that right now so that you aren't in the holding pattern anymore. You know, you hear me talk about energy set points, and for a while I was in an energy set point with my family of lone wolf, of I'm not supported, of like other people have great families and I don't. Like, that was my energy set point for a while. But I used these 3 things to change that energy set point. You can use these 3 things to change your energy set point in the realm of family, in the realm of finance, in the realm of business, in the realm of your body, like whatever, your relationship, whatever. But you got to do these 3 things. And if there's something that's stopping you from doing one of these 3 things, then that should be like a really clear aha moment to you on why you haven't manifested that thing yet. Okay, so just to recap, here are the 3 things. The first is identifying your vision and becoming unwavering, unshakable, and urgent about that vision. The second thing is to identify your triggers and become responsible around them, to see what you can learn from them. And then the third thing is to take urgent, committed, consistent action. And that's it. And I'll tell you what ended up happening in just a second. I'm going to see the comments first. Missy Strausner, hi, I love you too. Carrie Stanley, how are the tornadoes over there by you? You doing okay? Chrissy's doing our summary for us. Thank you, Chrissy, for the notes. Yeah, Chrissy's doing the notes. I'm seeing it all pop up now. That's great. Thank you. Oh, wow. Karen, she says, decided on the vision, know your why, sense of urgency, be in integrity, no way out. She's doing a summary. Great. So if you're not sure what I said, go look at Karen's comment. It's very informative. Anya says, somebody made sure I hear this message. Thank you for sharing. Cool. All right. Karen Stevenson, thank you so much for doing this beautiful detailed summary in the comment section. All right, I'm going to swipe the comments again. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm really excited to share this with you. So I picked up my rental car from the airport once I arrived. And I got in the car and I started to drive home. It was about a 50-minute drive home because traffic was pretty crazy. And about 15 minutes from arriving at my dad and my stepmom's house, I became inexplicably overwhelmed with emotion. And it's like I couldn't control it. I just started to cry. And I felt an overwhelming sense of that feeling of, I did it. Oh my God, I did it. Like, I set an intention 6 months ago that felt really impossible. So much so, in fact, that I was at a church service with Matt and my friends Shanda and Ash, and the pastor, I mean, we were like in the back row, like all the way up, like all the way in the back, and the pastor looks up and he points to me and he said, he prophesied over me, and he said, the thing that you've been praying about related to your family, God's going to give you a yes on that very soon. Can you believe that? I mean, that's how strong my prayers were, that it called the pastor in a church of hundreds of people to call me out and give me that affirmation. It's so crazy to think about. So 15 minutes from the house, I just became overcome with gratitude and with the Spirit of God and appreciation and humility. Like, oh my God, I did it. With God's help, by God's grace, I did it. And by the time I got to the house, I got out of the car. My she came out of the house. She was in the driveway. And I opened the door and I just ran to her arms, sobbing, and gave her such a hug. And she started crying too. And she was so happy to see me. And I went inside and I saw my dad. And as I mentioned, he had a stroke. So his ability to walk is very limited. And so he was waiting inside for me. And I went in and I'm like, I can barely breathe at this point, like crying so hard. And I go and I give him a hug, which I posted a picture on my Facebook if you want to check that out after this is over. And it was like, I could show you the videos. Like, we laughed so hard, like all weekend. It was just like joy and laughter and happiness in the house. And then after that, I went, and the following day I got to see my mom and sister. And oh my God, like I used to have such breakdowns with my sister. I would have to block her on my phone, which I don't block anybody. I'm just being honest with you. Like, it was so bad. Like, we had such disagreements that I was so triggered by her. I would just block her. Like, I can't deal with her. And like, when I was with her, we were laughing. Like, if you saw my stories, we were having the best time. I worked out with my mom. I got to spend time with my mom. And it was like, again, just, she's looking out for me. Like, there was a specific moment we were working out at the gym together, and she was at the machine next to me, and I was getting onto the machine, and the gym that they work out at has so many machines like that I'd never seen before. Like, I had no idea how to work them, but they looked kind of cool and I wanted to try them. And I was working out on the machine next to her, and she got up from the middle of her reps that she was doing on her leg thing. And she got up and she fixed the machine because she could tell it was going to be like not properly, set up for me to get on it and use it healthfully and in alignment. She got in the middle of her workout, got up, and I know it's a small thing, but it was like, that's the kind of stuff that never used to happen. And I felt so taken care of and so looked after by the entire weekend, by my whole family, every single one of them. And like, I could go on and on with stories right now, but just know that the transformation happened. The prayer was answered. The intention came to fruition. The vision became manifested. And this is possible for you too. It's completely possible for you too. And I want that for you. And I'm a stand for that for you. And I'm going to be a stand for that for you and anyone else who follows me and reads my stuff and watches my videos till the day that I die. And even then, I'm going to go off into the spirit world and continue to be a stand for that transformation. So all of that being said, I don't want to leave you hanging here with like no sense of, well, what do I do now? So what I'm going to do once I hop off here is I'm going to post a link to hop on the phone with one of my coaches. So it's a custom abundance plan session. That's what it's called. But you can use the session for anything, because here's why. The two coaches plus me who will be fielding the calls, which by the way, the calls are completely complimentary. And again, this is coming out of purely the vision that I am and the stand that I am for transformation. Because can you even imagine a world where like everyone operated this way? Not that the way I operate is perfect, but I'm relentless in my vision. And I see a world where everyone is that relentless in their vision. And I want to help you be that relentless in your vision so you can manifest all the things you desire. Because the things you desire, God placed in your heart. It's not there to fuck with you. You know what I mean? So I want to help you create those things. So I'm going to post a link here. In fact, I think if you actually just go, one of you can post it and test it out and see if it works. Catherine, maybe you have it. It's, and Catherine's one of our coaches, so I'll introduce her in a second. But it's thedharmacircle.com/custom abundance plan session. I think that's the link. I'll double check. But Catherine, before you post it, test it first and make sure it opens up to our calendars. Okay, so let me just tell you about my coaches for a second. My coaches are Catherine and Amber, and they're both so incredibly qualified. Catherine is a self-made millionaire. She has multimillionaire, excuse me. She has done a lot of the same work I have, so we've had similar training. She has a different perspective. She's happily married. Her husband is totally magical, and he's done a lot of personal development work as well. He treats her like a princess. He's amazing. She's a mom of the most amazing kids that I've had the privilege of meeting. And she's an incredible coach. She's an absolutely incredible coach. So she's one of our coaches. And then our other coach, Amber, let me just start by saying her coach, as she coaches with me, like she's one of my private clients, but she's actually getting certified. So she's getting her coaching certification through the person who coaches Hugh Jackman. Like, that's her certification mentor. Hello. So Amber's unbelievable. She's also incredibly successful. Such a she's such a warm-hearted, giving person. And so whoever you end up on the phone with, whether it's Catherine or Amber or me, the session that you book will be absolutely life-changing and transformative. And I promise you that you will leave a different person, even within those 30 minutes of the conversation, having had a conversation with one of the three of us. You'll be in good hands, however which way it ends up going. So let me look at the comments here. That sums up my Dharma Talk Tuesday. I have no idea what time it is. I think I've gone kind of long today, but I just felt like it was too important not to share the story with you. And based on the, Chrissy says, yay, Amber. I know, she's amazing. You know, based on the comments I've gotten so far from the Facebook post I did about this, I'm realizing and recognizing that this is an important topic, and I'm really glad that I've chosen to share about this and that God gave me the words and the flow and the messaging to land with you, because I know that truly, I say this from the bottom of my heart, if it's possible for me to create this kind of transformation and to manifest healing in my family the way that I have, it's definitely possible for you. If it's possible for me to create this kind of success that I have in my business, we're headed towards 7 figures this year, it's definitely possible for you. I didn't know what the hell I mean, honestly, the reflection from my stepmom of who are you to be a coach wasn't so far off. I mean, that there was an element of truth in that. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew I had a vision. And that's really where it starts. It just is, you know what I mean? And so there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I made it wrong. I judged it. I felt bad. But there's nothing wrong with that. We all start somewhere. So Catherine's the best. She said, thank you. I got so lost in the compliments. Let's confirm that link again. I'm pretty sure it's thedharmacircle.com/custom abundance plan session. So you should be receiving those compliments. You totally get to receive that. All right. So, and I'm going to test that link as well, because I'm going to hop off here in a moment. So if you are watching the replay, so if you're watching this live, I'm going to go through and comment on your comments. If you're watching the replay, still post your comments and all of that, because I am going to go through and continue to check on this thread throughout the week and respond to you. And if you feel like you're done settling and you're ready to raise your energy set point in any area of your life, but especially in the realm of your business, of manifesting prosperity and making a difference for other people, if you feel called to be a leader in that way, then you would be remiss not to book a session with us. My coaches are amazing. We will create breakthrough for you and with you. All right. So go to that link once we get it posted. I look forward to connecting with you. I look forward to hearing about you, because Amber and Catherine will tell me about you. And have a beautiful rest of your week. And I hope this made a difference. Hearts and likes if it did. And I will see you next week in the Dharma Talk Tuesday chair for Dharma Talk Tuesday. Sending you so much love. Bye.